The wine is poured. If it's poisoned, everyone in this hall believes you'll drop before it leaves the room. 40 eyes on you. Cardinals, captains, the Pope himself. Everyone is wrong. If it's in the cup, you won't feel it for hours. That is the trap. By the time you know, so does he. Could you survive the deadliest dinner table in Europe? Drink. It's 1493. Rome, 50,000 people. And since last August, one new master. Pope Alexander VI, Rodrigo Borgia. You are 22, and you have just won a postman twice your age schemed for, cupbearer in the papal household, a palace staff of several hundred, the trembling slave eating death for a tyrant, ancient Rome, more than 1,000 years gone. Here, the man who hands the master his cup stands closer to power than most bishops ever get. Nobles fight for this job. Your work is a ritual called the Credenza, literally, the trust. Wine is tasted before it is poured. Food is tasted, then set on a guarded sideboard, the credence table, so no hand can touch it between your mouth and his. The pay is perhaps 25 ducats a year. The proximity is the real salary. 85%, the highest starting odds this channel has ever handed anyone. Hold that number. It is hiding something. You start with 3 lives. A like buys you 1 more, and in this palace, you will want it, because everyone at this table fears one poison. And the thing that actually kills here, nobody's watching it. June the 12th, 1493. The Pope's daughter Lucrezia is marrying Giovanni Sforza inside the Vatican itself, and the palace is drowning in sugar. More than 200 dishes cross the credenza tonight. Guests fling sweets into the bodices of noblewomen. More than 100 pounds of candied fruit will be ground into the marble by dawn. Every plate bound for the high table passes your station first. The scalco, the steward, directs the feast like a field marshal. The carver tastes the meat as he cuts it. The wine is yours. You dip, you sip. You hold it on your tongue, swallow, wait 1 heartbeat, nod. The pantler lifts the salt with its little ceremonial spoon, and the meal is allowed to begin. And on the sideboard stands the kind of small golden tree that guards feasts across Renaissance Europe, papal courts included. Hung with dark triangular stones, your century calls serpent's tongues, the age's insurance policy. Your century does not entirely trust a human tongue, so tonight you may carry 1 charm of your own. Choose. The alicorn is the luxury pick. Powdered unicorn horn, in truth, narwhal tusk shipped south by northern traders, said to sweat and darken when poison comes near, priced at 10 times its weight in gold. Chose it. You now own a sliver of ivory worth more than your year's wages, and everyone at court starts wondering how a cupbearer paid for it. The serpent's tongue is the company pick, a fossil shark's tooth, some of them megalodon, and the papal treasury has kept them since the 1200s. Chose it. It matches the sideboard. Your master sees it and trusts you a little more. It will never once sweat, because it will never once meet poison. The bezoar is the strange one, a stone scraped from the stomach of a grazing animal, sold as a universal antidote at 10 times its weight in gold. Pure superstition, except 5 centuries from now, chemists in one California lab will drop bezoar stones into arsenic-laced water and watch the stone quietly pull the poison out. Only arsenic, only in a cup, useless once the poison is swallowed. 1 lab, 1 experiment, but you are holding the only charm at this table that does anything at all. Chose it? You have paid a fortune for a grey pebble that impresses no one, and it buys you the same whisper as the alicorn. How did a cupbearer pay for it? 7 years pass. You taste, you nod, you live. Nothing happens, and that is the first true thing you learn about this job. The year 1500 is a jubilee. Rome swells with pilgrims. Rivers of coin cross the Pope's floor, and the city shows you what death here actually looks like. In the spring, 6 men hang for robbing pilgrims. By late May, 18 more swing over the bridge of Sant'Angelo. Now, the poison you were hired to catch. The legend says the Borgias keep a weapon called cantarella, a fine white powder, faintly sweet, invisible in wine, killing on whatever schedule its maker chooses. Historians say something colder. No writer of the 1490s ever mentions it. If the Borgias poisoned anyone, they used plain arsenic, and the poison you were hired to detect may never have existed. What did exist? Fever, the Roman air itself, the mala aria. Bad air drops healthy men every August. And politics, the Borgia victims. Historians can actually document died by strangling and stabbing, fever and steel, the things that actually kill at this table, the things nobody is watching. Neither one ever passes through your cup. Tonight, at a cardinal's banquet, the theory ends. You lift a guest's wine and your tongue catches something. Metallic. Wrong. Maybe a spoiled cask. Maybe the thing the whole legend promises. 40 eyes. 2 choices. Spill it, and if you are right, you have just saved a pope with your bare hand, the only cupbearer in Rome whose name a pope owes his life to. It is the one choice that can ever actually catch a poisoner. But you have also accused your host of murder at his own table, and wine goes sour far more often than it is ever poisoned. Wrong, and the apology is paid out of your hide and your post, and that is defensible. Swallow, and you learn what this job truly is, because nothing happens, not in 1 minute, not in 10. Arsenic, the one poison your era actually uses, announces itself 30 minutes to several hours after the cup, and kills in 1 to 4 days. You lie awake all night, hand on your belly, counting twinges. By morning, nothing. A sour cask. But do the arithmetic on what your tasting was worth. Had it been real, you would have nodded it through, and the first cramp would have reached the Pope at midnight. The job everyone fears is a job that cannot work. Betting on the odds instead of your tongue, that too is defensible. Early August, 1503. A supper at the hillside vineyard of Cardinal Adriano da Corneto. Open air, summer heat, the Pope, Cesare, a handful of guests. You pour. Chroniclers tell of an omen from those same weeks. A fat cardinal drops dead, and watching the funeral pass, the Pope mutters that August is a bad month for fat men. 6 days after the supper, the host, Corneto himself, is burning with fever. On the 7th morning, Saturday the 12th of August, so is the Pope, so is Cesare. So are guests and servants who ate that night. The physicians do what physicians do. They open the old man's veins day after day. Cesare, on fire with the same fever, has himself lowered to the neck into a great jar of ice water. The cure strips his skin, and he will live. The Pope will not. Even before the death is announced, you watch politics eat the palace. Cesare's enforcer Michelotto seals the doors, a man famous for the garrote, not the vial. He puts a knife to a cardinal's throat for the keys and hauls away 2 chests, 100,000 ducats each. On the 18th of August, Alexander VI dies, 72 years old. And now the whispering starts. Every whisper needs a servant to blame. You are the man who poured. This is what 85 was hiding. The number measured poison. Nobody was measuring Rome. Run, and you have written your own confession. A vanished cupbearer is the ending every poison story needs, and the roads out of Rome belong to men like Michelotto. Stay, and your life now hangs on a dry little Alsatian bureaucrat you have watched for 10 years, scribbling at the edge of every banquet. Because the legend is already forming. It says Cesare had prepared poisoned wine for Cardinal Corneto, and a servant, someone exactly like you, poured the fatal flask to the wrong man. The Borgia Pope drank the death he had ordered. A perfect story. It is also a story first written down 3 months later, in a letter from Burgos, Spain, 1,400 kilometers from that table, by a man who was not there, polished by chroniclers who weren't there either. Historians say, look at the table. 1. Nearly a week between supper and fever. Arsenic declares itself in hours. Malaria incubates for days. 2. The supposed target got sick first and survived. So did Cesare. Guests and servants went down together. An epidemic, not an assassination. 3. The man who stood closest to this court never wrote the word poison. His name is Johann Burchard, papal master of ceremonies for 20 years. He bought the office for 450 ducats and repaid it by recording everything and judging nothing. On the 12th of August, his diary says only, "A fever appeared and remained permanently." 3 days later, he logs 13 ounces of blood drawn and his own physicians naming the tertian ague, the every other day fever, malaria's rhythm. He describes the swollen corpse and draws no verdict, when even the mourners fled his funeral rites, guards brawling over candles, monks abandoning the requiem. He wrote it down, and the Pope was left lying there almost alone. The burial gossip he files as gossip. Thus told me Lord Crispolit of St. Peter. The chapel that took the body was named Santa Maria della Febbre, Our Lady of the Fevers. Most modern historians conclude exactly that. Roman fever, malaria, in an August that killed people all over the city. Not proven, but the man who wrote down every meal outlived the Borgia Pope, and in 10,000 entries, his ledger never once says poison. If you stayed, that ledger is your alibi. Nobody ever comes for you. 22 this morning, when the palace wanted a name. 68 tonight, because a bureaucrat wrote everything down. Now count your hearts. Spilled the wine and ran for the gate? You're out, unless you bank to spare. Still holding a life? You made it. The taster nobody poisoned. In the court, the world remembers for poison. Decision 2. Did you swallow or spill? Timestamp it. The survivor's table is in the pinned comment. Here is the part that should follow you out of this palace. The trust ritual never died. In the papal mass itself, a taster went on sipping the Pope's wine before the Pope himself, into the 1960s. In the 1940s, a woman named Margot Wolk said, 70 years later, that she'd been made one of 15 tasters of Hitler's food, that she chewed through his vegetables every morning, and that the fear in those rooms was British poison. And on the morning George W. Bush was sworn in, Navy stewards were tasting the inaugural lunch by 6 a.m. The Credenza never died. It just changed uniforms. You survived the table. Next week, no poison, no blades. Just a roof, a shovel, and less time than this sentence. Chernobyl, 1986.